I'm going home, rinse it out, and tell my...
So, if you happen to come upon a nest and you've scared the babies out of the nest, or your dog has found the nest, there's some easy tips that we can give you to put the babies back in, keep them safe, and mom will be none the wiser, and you can basically be a bunny sitter for her. So what we tell people to do is to collect as much of the nesting material as possible. Sometimes that's tricky because things have been scattered, but the biggest thing, I guess, first is to collect the nesting material and the babies. If they're older, they will scatter. If they're younger, they'll probably still be in the nest. You want to make sure none of them are injured. If you have a question or doubt that one is injured, you can always take a damp tissue and wipe it over the surface of the baby's skin to check for blood. If none of them are injured, they can all go back in. If one of them is injured, only one of them needs care. Mom doesn't do a head count. She feeds, and so she does not know that this has happened. So what we tell you to do is put the babies back in the nest, put the nesting material above the babies gently, and then you want to mark the nest, something that you can recognize. We don't ever want to use sticks, straws, flour. We don't recommend that to people. It's a little bit too much of a change, and bunnies are super sensitive species because they are a major prey species, so they're constantly on alert. Any too big of a change will throw mom off. So what we suggest is long blades of grass. So you take off the pieces of grass and you can make a tic-tac-toe pattern like you kind of see here. It's very natural. Mom will not suspect anything. And in the morning, what you can do is you can set the babies up in the evening, and by 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, they will have been fed twice. And so by then, you will see a disruption in the nest. So, you know, the grass will be pushed to the side. You know, this will be kind of lifted. If you have any questions or doubts, we always, you know, we want you to call, and we can walk you through some other things to check for. If you do have an injured bunny and it does need to come in, we ask that you do not feed it. That can cause more harm than good. And or treat any of the injuries. Once again, that also can cause more harm than good. The best thing to do is to get that baby somewhere warm and safe and quiet. So if you don't have like a heat pad that you can use, we tell people a good thing to use is everybody has plastic water bottles. So if you fill a plastic water bottle with hot water and put it in a sock, if you put it in a shoe box or any type of box that you have to put the baby in, make sure you prop it so it's not rolling around, because that could lead to an injury. But if you prop it underneath a sweatshirt and put the baby in there with it, that'll keep the baby nice and toasty. We recommend that for squirrels as well, chipmunks, and woodchucks, and possums. So bigger or little mammals that we get calls on. So that's a good way to keep the babies warm. Tricky because they have two different developmental stages that are major, and that's being a nestling and a fledgling. And when they're nestlings, they will be in a nest, like the name suggests. And sometimes that nest can get blown out of a tree in a storm. It could just be on a really bad branch and it gets knocked down. If you find a nest of baby birds on the ground, doesn't mean they need to come in for sure. Sometimes those babies just need a little help, and mom and dad need a little help, because despite what a lot of people think, mom and dad can't pick up their babies and put them back up in the nest. They need us to help them, and they're very forgiving. They will actually be happy to, they'll be happy to have their babies back up in a tree. Now, putting something like this up in a tree is kind of silly, and it would be a difficult feat because they usually have mud on the bottom, and that's what keeps things in place. So what we tell people to do is to take an old margarine Cool Whip container, whatever you have that's this size, that's easy to poke holes in. You want to poke holes in the bottom for drainage, because when it rains, water will accumulate in here, so if you have holes, it'll drain. You can put some natural bedding inside if the nest isn't on the ground, because sometimes it's just the baby or the babies that are on the ground. The nest has been like completely destroyed. If you can take parts of the nest and put them in, dry grass works or leaves. And what you do is you prop it at least 6 feet off the ground. If you can get it higher, that's probably better. You want to put it near where they fell down from. So you always want to make sure you return them to the general vicinity of where they came from. So if you know it was from a certain tree, you want to get it in that tree. If it was up in your gutter, you want to get it to a tree that's close to that gutter. And basically, you take the shoelaces or string, whatever you have. Shoelaces are nice and strong, and they don't have anything that frays that the babies could get caught on. You'll tie them up into the tree, and you'll have to watch for mom and dad to come and feed them. Now, we always tell people that you want to see actual contact, and you have to be pretty vigilant. You have to watch to see that, you know, that mom or dad is actually physically feeding the babies, because there will be some bird species, specifically robins, where they will come and look at a baby of interest, but they are not necessarily the parent, so they won't take care of the baby, but they'll be interested in it, and they'll protect that baby too. They'll get mad at you if you go near it, but that doesn't mean it's their baby. So you want to make sure that you actually see physical contact of a parent feeding a baby, and this is a very successful thing. Now, the fledgling stage is a little bit trickier, and that's something that can be really difficult to judge, especially when we're talking to people on the phone. The beauty of modern technology is that a lot of people can send us pictures, so we'll be able to see whether or not it is a fledgling. But a fledgling bird is a bird that's just learning how to fly. They're not quite there yet, but they're experimenting with what they can do, and so often they'll look pretty helpless. They'll be in the grass, on the ground, hopping around, but they can't quite get lift yet. And so when you see them out there, you think that they're a baby bird that needs help. In a lot of cases, they're perfectly safe. Okay, so if you do find an injured baby bird, or a baby bird that is actually an orphan that needs to come in, we ask that you keep it warm and quiet. And the setup is a little different than with mammals, because they are more small and delicate than baby mammals. So we won't use the water bottle. What we tell people to do is to get Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags. You fill one up with hot water and Ziploc it shut, and then you put it within another one to keep it from leaking. Put it in a bowl. Everybody has some kind of Tupperware bowl, or any bowl. You'll get your bowl back. And then if you put a piece of tissue on top of the hot area and put the baby on top, if it feels like it's too warm, you can double up on the tissue, but really these guys need to be super toasty. When you feel them, they need to feel super warm to the touch, and that is the most important thing to do. It's just like us. When you're not feeling good, you want to feel warm and safe. And then you can put a tissue over top if it's a little naked baby that doesn't have any feathers yet. Otherwise, sometimes they do not like to have the Kleenex on top of them. So you have the baby set up. They can be within a box, and then with any baby that needs to come in, we ask that you make an appointment and bring the animal to the hospital.
I'm going home, rinse it out.